Good morning, Revision Online. I hope that you've all had a great week and that you're able to spend a little extra time celebrating and soaking in the good news of Easter. As Christians, we obviously love to celebrate the Easter story, but our reality is that we don't need just one single week to be thankful for the resurrection, because when we know Christ and have a relationship with Him, that same resurrection power that Jesus carried when He rose from the grave lives in us. And so we are excited to be back this week, and we're excited to celebrate the victory that we have in Jesus together.
Yeah, and so we're going to kick off our service in just a second, but before we do that, we have just a couple of announcements for you. First off, if you're a parent of children, we want you to know that we have some great resources available for your kids. There are videos, activities, and engaging questions, and we'd love for you to take advantage of these resources to help your kids grow spiritually. You can find the lesson plans and videos right on the homepage of our website, revisiondsm.org.
Yeah, we'd love for you to check out these awesome plans if you haven't already. And now next, what I'd love for you to do is all just take out your phone and text the word revision to the number 474747. This will allow you to fill out an online connection form to let us know that you tuned in with us this morning. For us, these connection forms are more important than ever because they help us really know who's joining us online. And since we obviously can't see you in person, this makes a big difference. Also, maybe you're checking out Revision for the first time and you're like, hey, I kind of like this place and I'd like to get connected or just get some more information. Filling out this online form will allow us to touch base with you and hopefully help you feel at home here at Revision. We promise we won't bombard you with lots of emails or calls, and so once you text that word revision to 474747, you'll get a form in a few minutes, and then we'd love for you to fill that out. It will literally take you less than 30 seconds, and even if you're a returning guest, we'd love for you to complete it.
Well, at this time, we want to invite you to join us with your generosity. As followers of Jesus, we believe that giving back a portion of what God has blessed us with is just another way to worship God together. And we're aware of the fact that these are some uncertain times, but we want to encourage you to think of how you can give, not just to help out the church at this time of need, but to help remind yourself that our things and belongings and worldly possessions are not what lasts forever. Instead, our hope is in an eternal God who promises to provide for us, just like Mike talked about last Wednesday. So if you've decided, hey, I'm ready to take this next step of generosity, then there are a few ways you can give. You can text the word revision to the number 77977. You can give online at revisiondsm.org, or you can give through the Revision app. Each of these allows you to give a one-time gift or set up a recurring gift. Thanks for your generosity.
Well, hey, thanks again for joining us this morning. We're excited to encounter Jesus together. Just a quick reminder that we'll be right back here on Wednesday night at 6:30, and we would love to have you join us. Anyways, let's dive into our service.
Well, hey everybody, welcome back. I'm so glad to see you guys this morning. You guys know the drill by now. We're going to sing some songs together. So wherever you are, would you guys stand with me? Let's get ready to dance. Let's have some fun. Get ready to sing loud. Let's do this thing, all right? Sound good? Here we go.
Sometimes on this journey, get lost in my mistakes. What looks to me like weakness is a canvas for your strength. My story isn't over, my story's just begun. Failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Yes, it is. Failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father. Let's sing this out. Lay your burdens down, ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house, yeah. Sing this out. Arrival's not the end game. Arrival's not the end game. The journey is where you are. Never wanted perfect, you just wanted my heart. And a story isn't over if a story isn't good. Failure's never final when the Father's in the room. No, no. Failure's never final when the Father's in the room. Oh, lay your burdens down, ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Sing this out. Prodigals come home, the helpless find hope. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Prison doors fling wide, the dead come to life. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Miracles take place, cynical find faith. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Come on! Jericho walls are quaking, strongholds now are shaking. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Oh, love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Oh, lay your burdens down, ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father. Alright, come on everybody, let's clap. Lay your burdens down, ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Here's where I lay it down, every burden, every crown. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here's where I lay it down, every lie and every doubt. This is my surrender. Sing this. I'll make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. Here's where I lay down. Here's where I lay down. Every burden, every crown. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down. Every lie and every doubt. This is my surrender. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to. Do whatever you want to, Jesus. I will make room for you to do whatever you want to. Do whatever you want to. I will make room for you. Do whatever you want to. Do whatever you want to. I will make room for you. For you. Do whatever you want to. Do whatever you want to. Yeah. Come on, sing this out. Shake up the ground. Shake up the ground for my tradition. Break down the walls for my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. Shake up the ground for my tradition. Break down the walls for my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. Shake up the ground for my tradition. Break down the walls for my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. Shake up the ground for my tradition. Break down the walls for my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to. Do whatever you want to, Jesus. I will make room for you to do whatever you want to. So do whatever you want to. Let's sing this last verse together. Here is where I lay it down. You are all I'm chasing now. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down. You are all I'm chasing now. This is my surrender. This is my surrender.
What's up, everybody? My name is Mike. I'm one of the pastors at Revision Church. I'm excited to be here today. I hope you're excited too. Just glad you're tuning in from wherever you are. And I want to let you know, if you're watching Revision Online for the first time, you picked a great day to start because we're kicking off a brand new series of messages called The Fight for the Future. Our world is seemingly in chaos right now, and the future's up in the air. And amidst all the anger, fear, anxiety, and confusion that surround us, you've probably found yourself wondering at least once or twice what lies up ahead and whether things are going to be okay. The reality of crisis is that you aren't where you once were, you aren't yet where you want to be, and you aren't headed toward the same future you thought you were just a couple months ago. The future of your family has changed. The future of your finances has changed. It's a weird space for all of us to be in. But I want you to know this: God has something to say to you right here, right now. This whole thing, the difficulty of our circumstances and the challenges this shattered world is throwing our way, they're not a surprise to him. We live in a sin-stained place, and God knows that. At one point, Jesus looked at his disciples and told them point blank, in this world, you will have trouble. That's why we're calling this series The Fight for the Future. I know that sounds pretty intense, but here's the deal. You're in a fight, whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not. We live in a world of poverty, greed, war, disease, violence, and injustice. Evil exists in the world, and it conspires to rob us of the future God says we were created for. But the frustrating thing is, evil doesn't just exist out there, it exists in here too. I like to pretend that's not the case, but occasionally I get a painful reminder. You remember a couple weeks ago when we had one beautiful day before it decided to be winter again forever? It was an amazing few hours there, and I spent some time outside playing with my kids, doing a couple outdoor projects, and I was feeling like, hey, even though coronavirus has wrought all this destruction, there's still so much beauty in the world. And then I went inside and I opened up Twitter, and as usual, it was a flood of terrible news and rage and all the worst parts of humanity. But all that bad stuff still felt pretty impersonal right up until the moment one of my twins, while I wasn't looking, shot me in the head with a Nerf gun at point blank range. And it hurt for two reasons. Number one, I'm bald. I don't have any hair to protect me. And all you hair people, you don't even realize how thick and warm and protective it is. Just be grateful. And number two, it hurt because we bought cheapo replacement darts from Amazon, and unlike the soft rubber Nerf tips, they have hard plastic tips. So I said, ouch, and then I grabbed the dart and I ripped it in half and threw it. Like a real jerk, because let's be honest, it didn't really hurt. And then I had a crying kid on my hands because I made him feel bad about himself, and he was just trying to have fun, and I ripped his dart, and I'm the worst. What an inexplicably idiotic thing to do. And I had to comfort him and clean up this mess of my own making, and maybe you can relate to that. I'm not super proud to be telling all of you that fun story. It's just, it reminded me that brokenness isn't just something in society, it's something in my soul. And I don't know if you guys are anything like me, but there are times where I feel a fight, like an inner tug of war between like good and evil in my own mind and my own body. It's outside of us, it's inside of us, it's stealing our joy, our hope, and the lives we were made for. We're in a war. And frankly, I don't buy, and I think many of us who find Jesus compelling don't buy any of the cultural philosophies we get fed about why that war exists. Western secularism has tried to explain away evil as just a lack of education, or simply a socioeconomic, sociopolitical issue, or a hang-up in the development of our evolutionary psychology. But all that falls flat in the face of our lived human experience. I can recognize in my own heart that ain't it. And the solutions that philosophy offers are even emptier than its answers. So it's important for us to understand, if we're in a fight for the future, what we're really up against. That's kind of the heartbeat behind this series, because I had a moment of conviction. I decided a couple weeks ago I should try to make productive use of this quarantine time and maybe read a little bit more. It's possible that what actually happened was I ran out of Tiger King episodes and I had nothing else I wanted to binge watch on Netflix, but either way, I felt in a time where it seems like every inch is a struggle, it might be worthwhile to reread a 2,500-year-old book, Sun Tzu's The Art of War. And I came across this line I'd highlighted the first time I read it. He wrote, "Victorious warriors win first, then go to war. Defeated warriors go to war first, then seek to win." And he also famously in that book wrote, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles." And I realized all of us are in a fight right now for our futures and for the future of the people around us. And God is calling those of us who follow him to be warriors for a countercultural rebel kingdom defined by love and peace and hope. But if we're going to win, if we're not just going to go fight blind and end up discouraged and beaten down, we need to know the enemy, we need to know ourselves, and we need to know our God. And so we're going to spend the next few weeks talking about that because I want to help us win first and then go fight. We're going to kick things off today by getting to know the enemy or the enemies. For a few millennia now, followers of Jesus have allowed his teaching to open up an entirely different dimension to reality, a completely different lens through which to view the battle between good and evil that's raging in our world. And they've used the language of the three enemies of the soul, the flesh, the world, and the devil, to help us understand this struggle all of us feel, every single one of us watching today, whether you're a follower of Jesus or not. Like this struggle of a war that's going on in our society and in our souls. And over the next 2 weeks, I hope you'll come back and tune in again because we're going to talk in depth about what we mean when we say the world and the devil are enemies of our soul. But I want to open things up today by digging into this enemy we call the flesh. And the Greek word throughout the New Testament for the flesh is sarx. And sarx is kind of a fun word to say, sarx. Sarx literally translates flesh or body, but basically it means yourself. You. I am my own worst enemy. It's not just a hit song from the late 90s. It's a true statement about your life and my life and everybody's life a lot of the time. Even though we like to pretend problems are never our fault. I remember back in the day I was doing youth ministry and I had a student come up to me once and say, Mike, I've been really experiencing spiritual warfare this week. I just feel like the devil has been attacking me. So I said, wow, that's intense. What's been going on? And he said, well, first my mom yelled at me and then she grounded me for a week because she found out I had like a couple assignments I hadn't turned in. And then yesterday I was going through McDonald's and I just looked down for a second to change the music on my iPod and I hit one of those concrete posts in the drive-thru, dented my bumper, and my dad says I have to pay for it. It's been tough. And that would have been a really funny moment if he was kidding. But this kid was serious, so it was hard when I had to break it to him. I don't think that's the devil, man. I think you gotta stop being an idiot. Like, just do your homework and pay attention when you drive. Cars are dangerous. But the truth is, like, we're masters of self-sabotage while worrying about threats from others. In 2018, the famous street artist Banksy shocked the art world with a pretty elaborate prank. He's famously protective of his work. He's kind of anti-corporate, anti-wealth guy. But he had apparently allowed one of his most famous paintings, called Girl with Balloon, to go up for auction at Sotheby's in London. And they hung it on the wall in this beautiful gilded frame and began the bidding as this who's who of art collectors drank champagne and prepared to spend crazy money. And the price kept going up and up and up until it sold for $1.4 million. But as soon as the gavel slammed down, something happened. Banksy activated a paper shredder he'd built into the frame, and the $1.4 million painting, it slipped down and ended up in tatters. And these security guards rushed over and grabbed it. It's all on YouTube. They removed the whole thing. And it's kind of funny to me. There was this security team standing by that day to protect the painting from people, from outside threats, without realizing that what the painting really needed was protection from itself. It's amazing how much we have in common with that Banksy painting. But it's not a struggle that's unique to us. We're not the first people in the history of the world to be our own worst enemies. In fact, the Apostle Paul, who's maybe the greatest Christian that ever lived, he was like the Iron Man of Christians, wrote this in a letter to the church in Rome that we now call the book of Romans, chapter 7, verse 15. He said, I do not understand what I do. For what I want to do, I do not do. But what I hate, I do. And then a couple verses later, he said, for I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do, this I keep on doing. And you read those words and you can feel Paul's pain and frustration with this personal civil war that's going on inside of him. And maybe you can relate. Maybe you've been fighting that same fight against depression, anxiety, fear, bitterness, addiction, anger, moodiness. So many of us have. So many of us are being held hostage by a version of ourselves that we don't want to be. And we feel, just like Paul did, that we're losing the battle for our minds, and it's costing us dearly. You guys, the most powerful and dangerous battlefield in the world is right here. It's your mind, and the war rages there 24/7, 365. And it can be a great enemy of the soul that limits your future and robs your life. So today, I want to look at what the Bible says about fighting our flesh, about guarding, strengthening, and renewing our minds, because the battle for sin always starts there. And I have 3 really simple principles to help us do that. And the first one is this: think twice about what you think. We got to stop believing everything we think, because not everything we think is true. The Bible tells us that our minds are confused, anxious, closed, evil, restless, rash, deluded, troubled, depraved, sinful, dull, corrupt, and blind, and just a whole bunch of other things. And the prophet Jeremiah warns us, the heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? And he's saying we have an incredible capacity for self-delusion, telling ourselves that things are better than they really are or worse than they really are. We're swayed by bias and selfishness. We tend to see black and white in a world that's full of color. We just don't always tell ourselves the truth, often on purpose because we don't like the truth. And just to clarify, here's what I mean when I say truth. I think the best definition of truth is that which corresponds to reality. I've been making my kids watch old movies with me during the quarantine, and this week we watched Space Jam. And you better believe, as soon as it came on, I sang at the top of my lungs, I believe I can fly, I believe I can touch the sky. My kids were super impressed, and they were also super glad they were quarantined just to our own house. But I can sing those words, not well and not on key, but I can sing them. I can even believe them. I wouldn't be the first person to believe that about myself. But that belief doesn't correspond to reality. It's not true. If I got a ladder and jumped off my roof because I believed I could fly, truth is what I would crash into about a second later. Hard. So we got to be careful to test our thoughts and make sure they line up with what the Creator says reality looks like. Because you guys, you are what you think. Proverbs 23 says, as a man thinks within himself, so he is. And listen, I'm not saying, and neither was Solomon in Proverbs, that you can just think yourself through any problem. You can just lean into the secret and embrace the power of positive thinking, because everything is simply mind over matter. No. But I am saying what's in your mind matters. You need to learn how to make your mind mind. Like sometimes my mind doesn't mind. It thinks what it wants and it believes what it wants. And Paul says we all do that, so we got to have some discipline in our thoughts. He writes this to the Corinthians in 2 Corinthians 10:5. He says, we demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. We take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. Just take your thoughts captive. Test them against what God says is true. Ask the people around you, your community, your church, and force your thoughts to align with the truth. And abandon the lies your flesh wants to believe. We live at the mercy of our ideas. And when the right ideas fill our minds and we believe things that are true, we show up really well to the reality of our world. Despite all of its brokenness, we bring flourishing to ourselves and the people around us. But when we believe lies that are not congruent with the Creator's design for our souls and our society, when tragically we let those lies in, we open ourselves up to destruction, pain, and ruin. Look, in Jesus' framework, truth leads to freedom and life, and lies lead to slavery and death. If you're going to fight for the future, you got to think twice about what you think. The second thing you got to do is guard your mind against garbage. I was playing FIFA, soccer for you non-gamers out there, on the Xbox with my son Jimmy a couple days ago, and I love playing FIFA against him because it is the only video game left in the world I can beat him at. It's the best. I was defeating him, of course, and at one point his team was mounting a pretty promising attack to tie things up, and then he passed the ball straight out of bounds. And he was not pleased. He was yelling at the little guys on his TV. I have no idea where he learned to do that. I totally have not modeled it during Bears or Hawkeyes games. This is very disappointed in him. But he yelled, "You dummy, why did you do that?" And so graciously, like any good father would, I informed him, "Jimmy, you did that. He kicked it out of bounds because you pressed the button. Ha!" And, it was fun and I won. But you give garbage commands in the controller, you get garbage results in the game. It's that old adage that all of us who grew up with green screen computers heard time and time again: garbage in, garbage out. But here's the deal, that's not just true for computers, it's true for your brain too. If you feed it garbage, you're gonna have garbage thoughts. And I think especially in a season of global pandemic and widespread fear, if you feed your brain rage and conspiracy theories and anger and doom, your future is going to follow it down that dark path. If you feed your brain images on a screen that lead it to where it shouldn't go, chemicals that alter it in a way that alters you, bitterness meant to poison somebody else that ends up poisoning you. Garbage in, garbage out. We got to guard against that. King David wrote in Psalm 101, verse 3, I will not set before my eyes anything that is vile. Because he understood something about how we're wired as human beings. What you look for is what you'll find. And that's not just a pithy axiom, it's science. There was a professor at Stanford named Arnold Zwicky who coined the term recency illusion to describe how once we notice something, we suddenly see it all the time, all over the place. Not because it's new, just because our brains are looking for it. Like when you buy a new car and then bam, they're everywhere. Every place you go, people are driving them. You're clearly a trendsetter. No, you're not. There are not magically more Camrys on the road. There are always too many Camrys on the road. You're just seeing them now. What you look for is what you find. We see what we want to see. That's actually part of our biology. The optic nerve is one of the only nerves in the body that's hardwired directly into your brain. And it feeds information back from your retina about what's up in front of you. But the optic nerve actually transmits way more impulses forward than backward. Significantly more information from your brain to your eyes about what to look for than from your eyes to your brain about what you see. Like so many of us get caught up looking for the garbage, looking at the garbage in our world. We focus our thoughts and our energies on all the negative things around us. In our marriages, in our jobs, in our families, in our friendships, in our news cycle. And when that's what we're looking for, it's never hard to find. And then what happens? You say, see, I knew it. I told you. It happened. This is the story of my life. No, it isn't. It's just the story you're choosing to write. There's a fight for the future, and to win against the enemy of your flesh, you gotta be on the lookout for beauty. It's everywhere around us, even in the middle of brokenness. Get rid of the garbage and start looking for God, because he promises us when we seek him, we'll find him. We'll begin to see him in everything. We'll notice the good. I challenge you to fight for that. Negative thinking rarely results in a positive life. Think about the positives. Please hear me. I'm not advocating for positive thinking as a replacement for God. I'm saying positive thinking is the only right response to God. Last weekend, we celebrated the fact that he stepped out of eternity into history and gave his life so we could be forgiven and set free. He conquered death from the inside, and he's at work setting all things right and making all things new. I don't care what else is happening. I can worship. And I promise you this, you cannot worry and worship at the same time. You can't be accidentally negative when you're being purposefully positive. Worry and worship, they just don't vibe. You want to live a better story, create a better future for yourself and the people around you, worship God. Look for the beauty he's put everywhere around you and guard your mind against garbage. And the third thing, the third tool in your toolbox for knowing and defeating the enemy of the soul that is your flesh is this: dare to dream. Let God stretch your imagination, give you a picture of the future he wants for the world and the role he has for you in shaping it. I read verses like Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish. And Acts 2:17, where Peter stands up boldly in front of all of Jerusalem, full of the Holy Spirit, and he quotes the Old Testament prophet Joel. In the last days, God says, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams. I read those and I think, that's us. We live in a world that is beaten down and perishing, and God says through his Spirit living in us, it's our time to cast vision and to dream dreams and to light up the darkness. Now is the moment. You guys, I'm convinced the only way to win this fight, the only way to write a better story for everybody our lives crash into every day is for us to get some God-given, God-shaped, God-sized dreams and then boldly go chase them. We gotta humble ourselves. We gotta stop telling him what he needs to do for us and start asking him what he wants us to do for him. We gotta start listening and learning. The word disciple means learner, and figuring out what role he has for us to play. Dare to let him give you a vision for your future that scares you. Because I think if your dreams don't intimidate you, they probably insult him. Dare to dream. You know, the wonder of the human mind is our ability to hold ideas that correspond to reality and ideas that don't correspond to reality all at the same time. It's actually a double-edged sword. On the one hand, like we've already talked about, it allows us to deceive ourselves, believe things that aren't true, but there's a profoundly beautiful flip side. That ability is also something that separates us from every other living thing. It's our capacity for imagination and our ability to create the future. We're the only creatures who can hold unreality in our minds while understanding that it is not, or it is not yet, real. We can perceive, we can dream beyond our five senses, and this enables all of human creativity. We are divine image bearers, which means we have the capacity to hold in our imagination something that does not yet exist, and then with our will and our hands and our community, through the power of the Holy Spirit, we can bring it into existence. We can create the future by taking something that doesn't currently correspond to reality and turning it into reality. It's our creative genius as a species given by our Creator. We were made not just with a longing for a better world, but with the ability to be a part of what God is doing to create it. You guys dare to dream. Dare to dream. You're locked in a fight for the future. You didn't pick it, but it picked you. And one of your greatest enemies is your own flesh, your brain, your thoughts, the lies you believe, and the broken, sinful desires that live within you. And I want you to know this week that the flesh is an enemy and that it's real, and that it's fighting for the battleground of your mind. But I also want to invite you to engage the fight by thinking twice about what you think, testing your thoughts by looking at God's word and talking to God's people to make sure you're clinging only to what's true. And I want to invite you to guard your mind against garbage. What you look for is what you'll see, and what you see will be the story that you write, so look for the beauty. And I want to invite you to dare to dream, to trust that God has a purpose for your life, and you have a role to play in what he's doing to make all things new and set all things right. All things, including you. I know some of you may be sitting here this morning thinking, I already lost the fight. My flesh has already destroyed my future. I'm tattered and torn, and it's too late. And that's an easy thing to think, but it is that same enemy, the flesh, still trying to convince you to believe something that doesn't correspond to reality. That Banksy artwork, Girl with the Balloon, the winning bidder still paid $1.4 million for it, took it home in shreds, and now art collectors estimate, because of the famous experience of the prank, it's probably worth at least twice that much. Again, we have more in common with the Banksy painting than we think. See, God can take your tatters and tears and make them into a masterpiece. He can use the experiences of your life to create space for you to make a difference in somebody else's life. Don't believe anything less than that. Look, being born again in Jesus isn't easy. It doesn't drop us into a spiritual maternity ward. It drops us into a battle zone. The birthplace of our faith is less a mother's womb than it is battlefield earth. And we are living right now through a difficult season in the fight. But I think if we know the enemy that lives within us and we decide that we're going to do battle, we're going to give our minds to God and his truth, then by his power, we can win this war and we can write the story he made us to write. Will you guys pray with me? God, it's so easy to believe the lies that surround us. So easy to believe the lie that our stories are too far gone, that we're too messed up to make a difference. So easy to allow ourselves and convince ourselves to let fear win, let anxiety win, let brokenness win. And I pray, God, that you would transform us by the renewing of our minds, that we'd be able to fight for what's true, and that you would help us win this daily, unending, 24/7, 365 battle for our minds, that we'd be able to look for the beauty and see you. Lord, as we seek you, will you allow us to just find you and find your beauty and find your peace and believe things that are true, so that we can walk out into a world full of lies and write a better story for the people we're crashing into. Write a story that points them towards your truth and your grace and your love, so we can be citizens and warriors of this countercultural kingdom that speaks hope and speaks peace in a time of great darkness. We thank you for inviting us into that. We thank you for your love. In Jesus' name, amen.
The Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you, and be gracious to you. Lord, turn his face toward you and give you peace. bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you, and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Amen. 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 Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you, be gracious to you. Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Sing amen. 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 May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his presence go before you, behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He is with you, he's with you in the morning, in the evening, and you're coming and you're going and you're weeping and rejoicing. He is for you, he's 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 for you.
Well, hey, thanks for joining us on Revision Online this morning. We're so glad that you decided to spend your morning with us. Just want to encourage you as you leave today, we're beginning this brand new series, the Fight for the future. And a lot of us have unique opportunities because of everything that's going on. Unique opportunities to invest in different things that we might not otherwise get to with the time that we now have on our hands. So I want to encourage you, be intentional in your own life with your relationships, with your habits, with the people that you're interacting with. Be intentional, and let's fight for the future together this week. We'll see you guys next Sunday. We'll also see you guys back here on Wednesday night at 6:30. Have a great week.